about it right now. We are at AT&T. I'm partying with Cowboys Nation.
What is up, Cowboys Nation? Just a simple reminder before I get going. That's what we have for our 1,000 subscriber. When we hit that, we are going to be having a live drawing. The lucky winner who'll be watching is going home with that Micah Parsons. What's up? It's your boy Mike Tag. As you can see, got a little suntan going. I was relaxing over at the beach this weekend. Missed the show on Monday, so I figured, hey, you know, I'm in the Cowboys cave. I've been doing a little throwback Thursday. You know, if you missed it, we hit Tony Romo last week. I'm thinking, man, I got to do another one. And the way it comes, it always comes to my mind is when I see something on TV. And there's been, a lot going on with Barry Sanders. I was watching some stuff on NFL Network, so it always, when you got Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, it always kind of comes together. So it always makes an interesting debate between the two. So before we get rolling in that, make sure if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do it, because like I said, we're getting close to that 1,000th subscriber mark, and as soon as we get that Micah Parsons I showed a little earlier right there, that's going to be going home into someone's cave. Also, definitely check out cowboyscave.com. We've been getting a lot of pictures, putting them up of the fan caves around the nation. I love seeing it. Sharing ideas, and like I said, hopefully we'll be getting some people on and talking about their caves. So before we get rolling, I know the Madden stuff's coming out. I know the hype, or everyone's worried about the ratings, and everyone's paranoia's setting in. We knew Diggs was not going to get rated that high. That's what they do. You knew CD, they were going to disrespect him, but I like all that. Let's keep the attention off us. It's all on these other teams. We might as well pack it in the way all these experts are doing. It looks like the Eagles are going to go ahead and run away with the division, but let's just wait and see what happens. Let's lay low. You see what Dak's doing in the offseason. He's looking good. Another year removed from that injury. He's feeling great. The team is working. Stay low, under the radar. That's the way I like it. So let all the other hype go in. Let all the teams take all the noise. We'll lay back and we'll see what happens. So, like I said, I wanted to do a throwback Thursday. We did one on Romo. I want to hit Emmitt Smith. Those of you guys, who follow me, you know how I feel about Emmitt Smith. I've always been partial to the running backs. I grew up a Tony Dorsett fan when I was, a little Cowboys fan. But, by the time I get into high school, those were the glory days of the 90s. And obviously Emmitt Smith played a huge, huge part in it. So, hopefully all you Cowboys fans know about him. But, he's the 22 first-round draft pick, 17th overall. There was in the draft rumors we were trying to get a linebacker. I can't remember who it was. It slips my mind, but I think it was a Cincinnati Bengal running back, Burgess or something. Anyway, he was taken, so the Cowboys kind of maneuvered some stuff around, and Emmitt Smith kind of fell in their lap. So, good things happen. It almost reminds you a little bit of that Micah Parsons when you had all the hype. We were going to get Surtain and we were going to, go cornerback. And I think, it wouldn't have been a bad pick. He's turned out to be a pretty solid cornerback. But things happen for a reason. And good things happen for the Cowboys getting Emmitt Smith, because he was really what turned that franchise around. Of course, you had Troy Aikman. He was drafted the year before. You had Michael Irvin. He was drafted a year before that. Irvin had a couple years of some injuries, so he really didn't flourish until about 91. Aikman, we all know what happened with him. We know the rough start he had in 89, only winning one game. So, they draft a third of the triplets in 1990. The team, it was a slow start, but they started picking up steam, finished 7-9. And then, going into the 91 season, obviously the rest is history. The rest of the boys got together and they got it going. So definitely, if you know them, leave some comments. We want to share some memories about the great 22, the GOAT, which I like to call him, the all-time leading rusher in the NFL, the all-time touchdown rushing leader in the NFL. We'll get into some of those records a little bit later too, but he's 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, Rookie of the Year, NFL MVP. We talked about Hall of Fame, obviously Ring of Honor, all 90s decade team. So the man's done it all. The accomplishments, are there. And I've had a couple unique experiences, some funny stories, with Emmitt Smith that I share a little bit and just kind of, running off the cuff. But in 90, I want to say it would have been 90 after the 90 season. So going into 91, you guys can see, I got the Cowboys cave. I love collecting Cowboys memorabilia. Emmitt Smith was doing a signing in Florida. Grew up in Escambia, went to University of Florida. So he was doing a signing down in Miami. And, I had my Emmitt Smith jersey, first jersey I really got, and went to go get his autograph, waited in line. It was the old school disposable cameras that, had to wind it and, set the film. It wasn't disposable, it was a regular camera. We had to wind the film up. And my brothers were with me. And sure enough, taking pictures with Emmitt Smith, taking pictures of all this stuff. And get home, go get it developed. And my brother forgot to wind the camera. So we're taking pictures of nothing. So that was my one Emmitt Smith story. The other time I met him was later on in his career when he was retired. He was doing a signing at Crawford Kerr, who used to play with the Cowboys at the Wing House in Clearwater in Florida. And Emmitt Smith and a couple other players are doing like a softball thing. So he was doing a signing there. And me and my brother, a couple friends, we kind of snuck in, snagged a couple free tickets because they were giving you one ticket per person. I ended up getting like 7 or 8 things signed. I got so many things signed, I didn't even know what else to get signed anymore. But he's been, my all-time favorite player. Probably about 5 years ago, I ran into him at the airport. I usually, when you meet certain players, I like to keep my distance. I don't want to, draw attention to them. It's their personal life. But we're going up the elevator, and it was just a quick chat, just real quiet. It's like, man, you were the best. You were the greatest. And thank you for the memories. So, looking at his career, and if you haven't checked out some of the games, I was thinking about 3 key games. So, with Emmitt Smith, the one game to me that put him on the map was in 91. And I still remember it. It got the cover of either the Sporting News or one of those papers back in the day. It was Thanksgiving against Washington, then known as the Redskins. They went on to win the Super Bowl that year. Cowboys were a young up and coming team. Emmitt Smith just had a field day, like 134 yards, and just kind of established himself as a top running back in the NFL, and that really springboarded the Cowboys. And it was one of those defining games that you need. And as in parallel to this Cowboys team, it's that one thing that we've been waiting on, especially last season, the season before with Dak, is that defining game that it just all comes together. You're going against this team. No one says you're going to win, and you just take it over, take control of the game, and it was upward from there. You look at that 91 season. They go into the playoffs. They have a little success, but what happened to them? They got beat by the Lions, if my memory's right. And it's very similar to me when I look at this Cowboys team. It was a disappointing loss. Lions had a better team, better record then. Cowboys were young, inexperienced, just didn't have it. And they came back in 92. And then that's when they obviously started their, 3 Super Bowl championships in 4 years. So that's what I need from this team. That's what we got to get going on this season. We got to find that game where we can get over the hump and set the tone and set the message, because it's all about confidence. And that's what that game, to me, against that Washington Redskin team in 91, if you look at that game before, you look at it after, that's really, to me, was the defining game for that franchise and that core players to really set the tone. The next game, obviously, they win the Super Bowl. They come back. Everyone knows Emmitt Smith held out wanting a contract, wanting to get paid, missed the first 2 games of the season. We lose both games. They finally get him signed. Charles Haley, the story is he smashed his helmet through a wall, said, you better get Emmitt Smith signed to Jerry Jones. They get it done. They go on a run. Because of those 2 losses, everything kind of got tightened up. They didn't run away with the division, which they had to fight in the end. Last game of the season is probably the most famous game for Emmitt Smith. It was against the Giants, in the Meadowlands, and he had a long run, got tackled, separated his shoulder, stayed in the game, and they just, if you ever watch that game or you ever go watch the game, it was just an Emmitt Smith show. I think he ran the ball 36 times or 32 times for 168 yards, but he also caught 10 passes, and most of that with one arm. They depended on him because they needed that bye. They needed to win the division in order to get that bye, to be able to have that week off and that week rest. And I guess in that time, it was the byes were so important. It's almost like now some of these teams don't want the bye. You want to go and fight. And now, obviously, with the playoffs, you only really get one team with one bye. It used to be 2 teams. And it was so important. So they leaned on them. And it paid dividends because they won the game in overtime. They get to win the division. They get the bye. They get that second Super Bowl. And that would lead me to the next one, which would be Super Bowl 28, when he won the Super Bowl MVP. If you watch that game, Dallas was actually behind in the after the first half. They weren't playing that well. Obviously, this is a team that they blew out in the Super Bowl last year, but they just weren't clicking. And then what did the Cowboys do? All you got to do is watch that second half. Coming out of the second half, I think the Cowboys stopped them. They got the ball. It was an 8-play drive. It was 7 runs. It was Emmitt Smith over and over. The Bills knew it, couldn't stop it, and the rest is history. Go on to win back-to-back Super Bowls. And, and that cemented, again, his legacy with the team. He won 4 Russian titles. They go back to the Super Bowl, obviously in 95. We all know about everything with 94, but it was just a phenomenal career. And it's just, he was a pleasure to watch. And it always, comes down to, with Emmitt Smith, obviously all the SIs, threw that up there. I used to collect them all. Actually, the one in the Emmitt zone, I have that signed and, in the cave behind me. And it was just something about him. And it brought the great debate. And the great debate always in his era was Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders. Now, I may be biased. You may call me whatever you want. But best pure runner, I'll give to Barry Sanders. The running back that I want in the Super Bowl and I want in the biggest games is Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith did everything, and he did everything really good. Some of it great, right? He never lost yards. Always went forward. Now, some will say, well, geez, he had this offensive line, is the greatest offensive line. But really look back at that offensive line. And what was their record when he didn't play? Losing record. Look at that offensive line. It wasn't like we just had a bunch of first-round draft picks and there were studs and they had all this. It was a lot of cast-offs. It was a lot of guys that were, undrafted or putzing around in the USFL or not finding their way. I mean, really the only – they drafted Stepnoski in the 3rd round, and then they got Eric Williams, I think he might have been a 3rd round pick too. But Nate Newton, I mean, he was in the USFL. He was, he ate his way out of the league, they always used to say, and they had all these big guys. But what they did was they meshed together and they built that great wall. So I'm not discrediting the offensive line. You need to have a great offensive line. I mean, every running back, you need those holes open. If you watch a lot of the Cowboys now, you see our offensive linemen, a lot of them, injuries and stuff. They were getting pushed back. And I know Zeke gets a lot of heat and a lot of hate, but, I mean, he was running the ball well early in the season. He got injured. A lot of things changed. But if you watch the way he needs to run, he needs to have that little opening. And that's all Emmitt Smith needed. He just needed that hole. You give him that hole, he was always going to get positive yards. And they say, well, he's slow. He was too slow out of college. He didn't have all the measurables that they wanted in a running back. And I think back to 95, first play of the game, Monday Night Football against the Giants, he takes it 80 yards to the house. So he had enough speed because they didn't catch him for the most part. He could break away when he needed to. Now, he wasn't a speed demon. He wasn't known for that. But he was always going to get positive yards. He was always going to move the chains. He was always going to be available. I mean, I think he missed 11 games in his entire career for a running back. I mean, you guys see with, Christian McCaffrey, I mean, he plays 2 games a year. I mean, this guy was a warrior in the time when running backs, I mean, you'd get the ball 30 times a game. I mean, he led the NFL in carries, I don't know how many times. And then think about all the playoff games. He played an extra season just in playoff games. He was 12-5 in the playoffs. 17, I think it was 17 or 1,600 yards. I mean, he put together all pro seasons in the playoffs when it counted. And that's, again, what makes him, the GOAT. So with Barry Sanders, phenomenal running back. Take nothing away from him. If he didn't retire early, he probably would have had the all-time rushing title. There's no doubt about it. But he didn't. Emmitt Smith stayed. He left. Emmitt Smith got it. He's the rushing champion. He's the GOAT. And that's just, that's just the way it is. You guys you just gotta deal with it. But he was an absolute pleasure to watch. And, it was sad to me, obviously, when he went to Arizona. It's something that, you never want to see. You always hope that, they retire with their team. You saw Aikman was able to do it, but injuries, caused it. And he had if you listen to some of his stories, there was an opportunity where he could have went back. I think the Dolphins were trying to get him, after retirement. Obviously, Michael Irvin injury shut his career down a little short. So that was the unfortunate thing. But when you think about the running back position and the punishment that they take, I mean, think about it this way. He had over 18,000 yards. There's no one really close. I mean, Adrian Peterson, I guess he plays. He doesn't really play much. He's the only what you call active person in the top 25. He's got 14,900 yards. He's still over 4,000 yards away, and he'll only get like 200 yards the last, few seasons, So there's nowhere close he's going to get it. The next active running back is 54. And then you got Zeke at 58. Both of them are just over 7,000 yards. Think about that. 18,000 yards. No one, and that's what always makes me wonder. Is that one of those unbreakable records? You see the shift to offense. Now, things can always go in a circle. Maybe, down the road, the running backs are going to be more of a dominant, part of the game, but it just doesn't seem like it's happening. It's running back by committee. You're not seeing, those guys getting the carries that much. So when you look at it and you look at the amount of yards he has, can anyone ever catch that? And then look at his touchdowns. 164 touchdowns in his career. That's not even – there's no one even close. I think, the closest one might be 120, 130. The most active one's 120 with Adrian Peterson. It's so far above, and no one actively is even near that. So, LaDainian Tomlinson had a great career, touchdown machine, and he couldn't catch him. So I just think, when you think about Emmitt Smith and those unbreakable records, I just don't see how somebody in the modern game is going to get close to either one of those records. And, another great moment, at least for me, being a Cowboys fan, is when he got inducted in that Ring of Honor, and it was the triplets together. And it was a Monday night. It was against Washington, then the Redskins. I was able to go to the game. It was nosebleeds. It was at Old Texas Stadium. And if you don't remember that game, it was kind of a weird one because we were winning for about 58 minutes. And then all of a sudden, Santana Moss from the U, he broke my heart. He scored. He was a Cowboys killer, drove me nuts. He scored 2 touchdowns in about 2 minutes. And then that was pretty much the end of the line for us, and we lost the game. But, those were the dark days of the Cowboys. So those are the times that, we want to soon forget, obviously, with the new Cowboys. And then hopefully, we never get back to those dark times between, Troy Aikman until we got Tony Romo. So just wanted to share. It was just a quick thing. I've been on vacation. I wanted to get back. I wanted to talk a little bit about a little throwback, one of my favorite players. And, let me know what you think. Was he one of yours? Who's your favorite player from the Cowboys era? I'm partial to running backs. It was Tony Dorsett. It was Emmitt Smith. I love Zeke. He's going to make, a lot of disbelievers, understand what it's about because, again, with him, he was injured. Look at his numbers before he got hurt. He was averaging over 5 yards a carry. He was getting over 100 yards a game. I think, the running back position, they take a pounding. So it's one of those unfortunate things. But I love that the Cowboys are laying a little low. We got training camp starting next week. This is the last month. We're almost through it without football to the end of the year. So we're going to have a lot of coverage. We're going to have a lot of Cowboys talk. We're going to have a lot of NFL talk. I was actually working a little bit behind the scenes. What we always want to do, Jimmy and I always talk about, we want to get callers because we love to interact with the fans. I know I love interacting with the fans, and I think I've got it figured out. I'm no expert. I got a full-time job. This is just something I do as a hobby. But I think we got it. So hopefully, maybe by Monday's show, we may be able to be set up to take a few calls and to get some interaction going and get things going because it's a slow time. Unless you're a diehard baseball fan, there's really not a lot going on. But come next week, the Cowboys are reporting, training camp's getting started. We're going to see these boys get together, see what they got, see if we can answer some questions. There's a lot of doubt with, CeeDee Lamb. Is he going to be able to carry that number one receiver spot? Like you've said, if you watch the previews, I think he was already our number one receiver. It was just, what you want to call it. But can Jalen Tolbert, who I'm really high on, is he going to be able to pick up that slack because Gallup's going to be out for a few weeks. So we've got a lot of questions that we need answered. The defense, can we do what we did last year? Can we get those turnovers? That's hard to do. It's hard to get those turnovers at that rate year after year. So you got to think that we might get a little bit of a slowdown. So can we keep that going? Can Dan Quinn, another year in Dan Quinn's system? That's the thing. Our free agents, we didn't make a big splash, but the most important signing that we got was keeping Dan Quinn as defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. We need to get some continuity going in there. We need to make sure that we can continue to build off that. You see what Micah Parsons was able to do, in that defense. You're going to get, obviously, Tank's going to be coming back fully healthy. You didn't have a lot last season, so it's just another time to get in there. So we've got a lot going on. We've got a lot going on currently. But I think, like everything, it's always good to look in the past because you got to look at where you came from. And with Cowboys, the past is so great. People hate us and they say, why are you always talking about the past? Well, if your past was so good, that's why you talk about it. A lot of these other teams, they got no past. They got nothing to talk about. They don't even have current to talk about. We got rich history. So we always want to look back and appreciate it. So that's why I wanted to have a little conversation about Emmitt Smith, share my memories with him, share my feelings with him, my appreciation for him as a Cowboys fan, because in those dark days in the late 80s, when I get laughed at for wearing all this stuff, and then when they finally reach the mountaintop and I get to high school, and then all the bandwagons start jumping around, the jealousy starts. But the only fan was at that school. It was me. Maybe one other person. I'll give Richie a shout out. But other than that, there wasn't too many fans at that school. So I appreciate it. Definitely, we want to keep the hype. We want to keep it going. Check out cowboyscave.com. Give me your feedback. If there's things that you want to see on there, I want to make it interactive. I want it to be a place where we can have some fun. Like I said, with the Cowboys Caves, I want to see your cave. You got to email me the picture. It's mike@cowboyscave.com. Very simple. Or if you're following me on Twitter or Instagram or you're on a Facebook page, message me your photos. I'll get them loaded up there. We've got some great ones on there so far, and we're going to highlight and we're going to pick the ones, and we're going to have a little conversation because I want to see where they got this stuff. I want to hear the stories because whenever you're in a cave, and I can share stories about almost everything in here. There's always a story behind what you got in your cave, and that's what makes it special. That's what people don't understand the fandom and don't understand the memorabilia, don't understand all that. There's stories behind that. There's stories in here when I was a little kid, and there's stories of me today. Some goals were set. I got my first season tickets it was a lifelong goal to be a season ticket holder. I've got my uncut sheet. It was the last one they ever made. Thank God I did it because I was able to keep it in my cave. So that's what it's all about. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick message, a look back at the great Emmitt Smith, the GOAT, the great one. I will see you guys on Monday. Jimmy D and I will be back in full force. Hopefully I get a little communication worked out, get them phones working, and we will see you next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy it. We'll leave you with this.